I'm Sam Warburton, and you're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate.
And he's going to score Bristol's third try.
What a
what great play by Augustine Pichon.
And Bristol have made a bit of history, winning the European Challenge Cup for the first time ever.
And Bristol have won. They won the local derby.
You're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate, a Bristol Bears podcast made by fans for fans, with 2.5 season card holders at Ashton Gate who love the club, the game and all things Bears. Well, good morning everybody. A little bit of a different one today. Just me, Pete, on the microphone. But as the result of a very brief editorial meeting last night via WhatsApp, we've decided that we are not going to do a big podcast until next Sunday, but rather today we are going to give you the first of who knows what might be many Bears Beyond the Gate documentaries. In fact, what we have for you today is an interview that I did with 3 members of the Bears Supporters Advisory Committee, the Bears Together Committee I should say, who came on to discuss what the committee is all about, what their role is, and the ways in which fans can get a real voice with the club with regards to the matchday experience and off-field matters. So sit back, relax and enjoy, and we'll be back next week. Okay, so I'm joined tonight by Kiera, Kaye and Sophie, who are members of the brand new Bears Together Advisory Committee, and they wanted to come on and talk a little bit about the committee and what its aims are and what we as fans, I guess, hope to get out of it. So I'll start with you, Kiera. Thanks very much for coming to talk to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, firstly, thank you for having us on. We obviously had to come onto the the preeminent fan podcast to make sure that we got a range of people.
You mean the only fan podcast?
I did ask that question actually at one of our meetings the other day. I was like, guys, is there another podcast that we've missed? Because we'll need to make sure that we get to them as well. But it was like stony silence.
So. I can't believe you thought there was another one out there.
You never know. But I didn't know because obviously I'm a fan of yours. Anyway, so yeah, thanks for having us. We just want to come on and kind of reach a bigger audience, the biggest audience we can really, with letting you know how you can get in contact with us. The whole point really of the Supporters Advisory Committee is to create a bridge between the club and the supporters, and to get some real authentic feedback back to the club about various things, and also just hear from the supporters, because I think the club understand there's a lot going on, and they've got bigger and better, but the thing that happens when you get bigger and have 26,000 supporters in a stadium, even if some of them were Bath ones, is that fewer of you hear from them less, right? You hear from what actually are the pros and the cons, and what they love and what they would like, and what the fan experience is like for them. So all of us applied for this Bears Together Supporter Advisory Committee, and we got on it for different reasons, I think, and we're quite a diverse bunch of people on it. So you've got the only 3 women on the Supporters Advisory Committee on this call tonight. But for instance, you've got Kaye, who you'll hear from later, who's obviously the chair of the Supporters Club. Sophie, who you'll hear from later, is a big fan of the women's game and is always found at Shaftesbury Park and tell you any stat on that. I'm do a lot on diversity and inclusion, and then we've got other people who have spent a lot of time some who've been in the academy, some who are youth coaches, lots of people from lots of different perspectives, and so they've appointed everyone really well, which is great. And we have some challenging conversations about what we want to focus on, which is what you want, rather than just going one way. Anyway, so in general, I think the aims, or what the Bears wanted the aims of the committee to be, are for us to gather feedback from the fans, from you guys, on a number of different things. So, fans of the future, and are there any particular areas that we think we could bring through. We know rugby needs some more fans, and we know we're all not going to be here forever, so how can we help with doing that? Bring the opinions of the combination clubs and how things are going with that. Opinions on club comms, which I know can is kind of like Marmite, but and get that back to them. The all important stadium operations, which I think everyone has things to say about. But they do want to hear about those things because, for instance, they don't always hear about them because Ashton Gate is a different business to the Bears, as you guys talk about on the pod. They want to hear about products and services. I'm sure we could talk about the shop for forever, but they do want to hear about that. And then equally, they're really keen on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how can we make the whole experience better for everyone and entice all types of different people from all different walks of life. So they're kind of the main things, and just anything that makes a difference. And I will stop talking in a second, but how we're doing it is we meet with the club on a quarterly basis. So we've had one meeting at the High Performance Centre, which was fab. Fitz even sat in our meeting, and I specifically asked him if they could start scoring more tries down the South Stand end for the cheap seats like me. And what did he do on Saturday? The first half, scored a try down the South Stand end. So I'm attributing Fitz's try to the Supporters Advisory Committee.
It's funny you should say that, because I've got an idea about the Atio stand, but maybe I'll have to fill up one of your Google forms to rather than waste your precious time about that. That's good. So Fitz was there, is he? Because did he take the notes? Was he like the minute taker?
We actually got Pat's PA taking the notes, so we've got her precious time.
Fantastic. Well, now it's getting interesting. No, that's brilliant. I mean, that's good to know. Kaylee, you're obviously, it was mentioned, and I didn't say this at the beginning, which is remiss of me, but you are obviously wearing another hat at the club. You're the chair of the Bristol's supporters club, and you've actually done a few things for us, which is great. Sent us a few match reports and done the odd interview in the past. So I'm kind of interested to know how you see this differing a little bit from all the work you've done over the years with the supporters club, and are you going to how are you going to use your contacts and things like that with it?
Yeah, you got me on this as well. I know people aren't sick of my voice and face enough already. I'm here a bit more. This is a really awesome opportunity. The work we do with the supporters club is brilliant. But we're obviously mainly focused on away travel. So we see a lot of other grounds. So insight on that, I can do. But the supporters advisory group, it's giving a real another dimension. It's a way for people to just really have their say to the club through fans. I think that's what was really key for me when it was set up, that it was fans that were signing up, giving their time. For other fans, that peer-to-peer is really important, rather than, you fill out a matchday survey online, it goes to somebody invisible face at the club, you never see it again. Whereas this, people can see us, they can know who we are, and they are engaging with people that have the same experiences.
I was going to say, actually, I'm glad you mentioned the matchday surveys, because I'd written that down, because, they're good at sending those out after, all the games. And I reckon I've put on every single one I've ever done about the PA system in the Dolman not being very good, and nothing's ever changed. So I'm kind of wondering whether, in a seriousness, if do you feel you'll be able to push them a little bit more on some of this stuff that, or even just ask for kind of the results of these things? Because it's frustrating whenever a survey goes out and then you never actually hear the results. I don't know if that's something that you feel is an area you might push, as it were.
I think so. And I think we're very lucky that we have, as Kiera mentioned, we sit in a room with the people. It's not anonymous, it's face to face. The questions have to be answered when somebody's asking them. So I do think we've got that real opportunity to push for the answers and present the things that are really important.
Cool. I'll ask you in a minute about how people, listeners or whatnot, can get involved. But I was going to come to you, Sophie, as well, because I understand that your angle is very much the women's game and the Bears women. So I'm kind of interested to know what your thoughts are on in terms of how this committee can kind of link in with what's going on there, because that's a real there's been a real push on the women generally this season, and be interested to know what you think.
Yeah, I think, like Kiera said, I think that's the interesting thing about like the diversity of the group, because actually there are people who might not have attended women's matches before who've been coming along, who are in the group, because they're like hearing a bit more about it, and kind of actually that's giving us quite an interesting lens on kind of why people might not attend Shaftesbury Park and the kind of barriers that we face there as opposed to at Ashton Gate. So that's been really interesting, and I think that for me, so I am part of a campaign group called Her Game Too, and that's kind of how I found out about this committee, and kind of felt like that would be my place. So I think I am, and I've been a women's supporter for a very long time, and that is my passion. I love the women's team. I spent, as Kiera said, I spent a lot of time at Shaftesbury Park. But I think actually, and it's something that me and Kiera are speaking about, and one of our areas of focus as well is just women in general in the kind of at Ashton Gate, whether that is like watching Shaftesbury Park, watching the men or the women, and how that experience might differ, and how we can kind of get more women into the game, not just watching the women but watching the men's as well. And I guess from me, I would also like to see that being like equitably shared, of more people coming to watch the women at Shaftesbury Park. But yeah, those are very long-term goals, and I'm just excited to see how we can kind of have a bit of a voice in this, really.
How are you intending to try and get as much fan voice heard as possible?
So yes, in terms of getting as many fan views as possible, we're if you're on any of the Facebook groups, the men's, the women's, the supporters, you'll see a form that you can get in contact with us. We're also hoping that our page on the website will be up and running at the moment. The link is a little bit broken at the moment, but hopefully shortly on the Bears website. Also on X, or Twitter as I keep calling it because I'm old and I'm set in my ways. And hope we're going to try and have a presence. You can come and see us at the Supporters Club gazebo and raise anything that you want to raise in person. So that I'm hoping that we've got such a broad spectrum in person, online. The unofficial fans forum. I think John's looking after that one for us as well, so you can raise anything via that as well.
You've had one meeting, and it sounds great. Your next one, I think you said was April time. Do you see change happening quickly, or do you think it is going to be a kind of developmental process, if I were to coin a phrase?
I already mentioned Fitz's try, and that was within like a week.
That's true. I thought it wasn't about on-field things, though.
No, it's not. But an example of something that has changed quite quickly that we also did feedback was we were talking to Fitz about the fact that they used to walk around all four sides, and actually they're just taken recently to not walking around all four sides, and that it was important for everyone to see them after a game. And after Saturday, they went round all four sides. So I don't know if that was Fitz, and he seemed to really take that on when we said it to him, because they really appreciate the fans, and they want to do good things for the fans where they can. But in all seriousness, with regards to off-field things and things that aren't kind of about the players, I think, hopefully, I'm really encouraged. So Tom Tainton has been at both of our meetings. We've asked for some things and they've given them to us. So we asked to see their strategies and understand them a bit more, so we could kind of, direct ourselves. And Tom came and presented the men's strategy to us, took our questions afterwards. We've heard the women's strategy from Daisy. And the mechanism is that we have our kind of meetings and feedback, and then that information goes to their senior management team meetings, and then that they talk it out, etc. And if they think they want to take something to the board, then they said they'd take things to the board, which is kind of really where you want to be getting to with some of this stuff, right? So I'm optimistic that we can make some change in some areas. I don't know what the rest of you girls think.
I think for me it's that, I think because Pete, you were mentioning about the fan surveys on email. I guess we don't know who sees that, but I think the face-to-face element of it is really important, because you're speaking to the right people as opposed to this survey. Who knows where it goes, and kind of who knows who actually looks, and a number might not tell the story. I think, Kiera, at our last meeting, you were talking about how you stood in line for however long to get some food. There was no food. They could have just put it on the screen. That was something that could have gone into a fan survey, but you were able to tell the people who are who talk to Bristol Sport, who own Ashton Gate, whoever owns Ashton Gate, they're the people who kind of actually are able to say, well, this isn't good enough. What can we do? as opposed to that might have gone on a fan survey, maybe been seen in like 6 months or whatever. Not that we might do some surveys, so it's not that I'm saying ignore all surveys, but just we can actually talk to the people who can make the changes.
I suppose one of the things I've always thought is that there must be a little bit of a disconnect between the Bears as a club and Ashton Gate as a stadium, because I assume they are two separate organisations. And like some of the things that I find frustrating is, when people clearly get lost on big games going up the wrong aisle, it's really simple because there's no kind of numbering of seats at either end. So people get lost. It's simple things like that. And maybe, things like when it's really busy, they used to have those like people going around with kind of mobile lager and cider sort of things, but like, I don't know what you call them, on their backpacks. And that that hasn't stopped. That hasn't happened for a while. I don't know how much, if you're taking these sort of things back to the Bears committee, are you kind of confident that they might be passing that on to whatever the Ashton Gate side of things are as well?
I think it gives them the impression that I got from the last meeting was that they feel like they have more power to go and have those discussions with the Gate if we're giving them some kind of proper anecdotal feedback and how it affects people. Because sometimes the surveys in any walk of life, from like a company to an individual, you'll just get individuals kind of ranting or not. Whereas if we can talk them through how that's impacted someone, then I think they feel like they have a bit more power then to have those conversations with the Gate, and why it's impacting, because ultimately the Gate are providing Bristol Bears a service as well. So they, it's impacting the service that they're giving the Bears and then us in turn.
Remember to tell them that Bears Beyond the Gate have helped you out, because we like to do our bit for the club and fan engagement as well. Very very independent and so on. So that would be great as well. But anyway,
add it to the agenda.
Add that, just slip that in at the bottom. Bears Beyond the Gate, just a bit of promotion here and there. That would be fantastic. That's great. But look, thanks very much for coming on, and look forward to hearing more about the changes that come.